Welcome to Secrets of a Bridal Seamstress podcast, where we hear stories from fellow seamstresses just like you. We're able to share their success stories. We learn from wedding industry pros for the best business tips, and we get to hear from fellow sewists and crafters to hopefully inspire our creativity and our love for sewing. I'm so glad that you're here. And if you're a bridal seamstress, I'd also like to invite you to check out our Bridal Seamstress business membership. We have a community of women that can testify to the power of genuine connection, friendship, vulnerability, the power of our six-figure seamstress method, and a genuine connection found in a business mentorship like this. All right, let's dive into the episode. Hey friends, welcome back to Secrets of a Bridal Seamstress podcast. I'm so excited to be here with Becca Mai. This is a very highly anticipated conversation because we've been planning this for a while and life events got in the way, but we're finally here together. And I'm really excited to introduce you to her. So she is the founder of Wed to You. She coaches and mentors wedding professionals and creatives, and she's here to talk about SOPs to make our lives easier. And you might be listening and you're like, I don't even know what an SOP is. Perfect. This episode is for you. And Becca is also a deep believer in the anti-hustle culture. And if you have been part of our SPS membership, you know that runs deep with us. So Becca, I cannot wait to dive in. Thank you for being here. We've had an eventful month. Do you want to give listeners just a little snippet of what happened to you last month? Because we were just talking about it and my mind is blown.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm super pumped to chat about SOPs and anti-hustle culture, because this also kind of goes into why sometimes your body just says, hey, you need to slow down. And this month, my body definitely said, you need to slow down. I ended up breaking both of my elbows, spraining both of my wrists, and spraining my right ankle. I fell at a dog park and just fell in just a beautiful way. That's so obviously uncommon that my ortho surgeon was actually super pumped to do it, because he's like, I haven't done a bilateral radial head replacement before. I'm so excited. And I'm like, I'm excited for you.
That's what everybody wants to hear. I've never done this before. I'm so excited to do this on you. You're like, I'm so glad I'm here.
I had a lot of confidence and faith in him. He was absolutely amazing. Shout out to Ortho Virginia. They actually also are the surgeons and actual doctors for the Washington Commanders. So,
you were in good hands.
Yeah. So I was in great hands. So he was pumped about it, and I watched enough Grey's Anatomy, so I could see a Callie moment in him of being like, I'm so excited to do this.
Perfect. You're like, actually, I could guide you through this because I've seen enough Grey's Anatomy.
Right? Could I have been awake,
open dialogue,
and alive? Yeah, and been like, we can talk during my surgery, right? Oh my gosh.
Coach along the way. You are a coach. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you had to slow down, but I bet you were prepared for it because of your SOPs.
Yeah, I do have quite a few in place, but it was also eye-opening to me too. It's because I'm so in tuned with kind of my operating procedures. That's exactly what a SOP stands for, is standard operating procedures. It's the day-to-day of what you do and how you do it, and the tools that you use to accomplish each task within your business.
I know there are listeners, they're grinding in their sewing studios and they're surviving day to day. So the thought of having a daily routine that you could have it easily explained to the next person, so somebody else could take it over for you? Or is everything kind of willy-nilly, day to day, you're kind of barely getting the dresses done in time, or barely getting your work done in time, and heaven forbid somebody else has to step in for you and take care of your clients, or maybe move the dresses to a different seamstress if you have a scenario like what Becca just went through. So having these standard operating procedures, like you mentioned, for the daily tasks, we're not talking about your long-term goals or big marketing plans. It's let's talk about the daily tasks and how do you simplify them. So we all need this.
Yes. And it's one of the things that also even in turn made me realize that I need to get a little bit better with mine. You know what I mean? We're all human, but because I understand these things, I was able to communicate effectively to my other clients and adjust things because of currently what I have without it putting too much stress on me or my business. And so it's really hard, to be honest, for wedding professionals and business owners to actually plug in SOPs by themselves. And the reason actually why I say this is because we know our next 5 steps, our next 10 steps. Our brain does this on the day-to-day reg that we're already 5 steps ahead or 10 steps ahead.
It's like a subconscious thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Like we can do all these things in our sleep. You know what I mean? Like you can do probably like a French bustle in your sleep by now because you're like, I already know all the things that I need to know, but somebody new coming in doesn't know these things. And so breaking down things into SOPs, and I like to break things down into sales versus operations. So sales is from the purchasing standpoint and getting them situated to purchase. Once it's purchased, then moving them into the operations phase, which is, okay, now we've gotten your gown in, now we're moving into new things, okay? And so getting them through. So there's 2 separate funnels. And I like to break things up a little bit because when you're looking at your business and when we're talking about SOPs, that's immediately overwhelming. It's like, think of like wedding planning, for example. You're just like, oh my gosh, that's too much. But when you break it up into phases and break it up into chunks, it feels more manageable. So when we're talking about standard operating procedures, break it up into those 2 funnels, sales, which is the B2C, and then the operations, which is one, the back end, but also the client facing end of that. Because your journey isn't done once you sell the dress 9 times out of 10. And so kind of working through that process and creating a process for it so that way it'll become a training manual, not only just for yourself as an accountability checklist, but also a training manual for new employees that come on so that you're not having to reinvent the wheel every single time or it be frustrating to bring on a new person and you're like, oh gosh, I got to teach them all these things. It's like, okay, I don't have to teach them all these things. I can give them this training manual to get them accustomed to how we do things, and then I can be there to support them through the training experience.
Yes, totally. I'm thinking of someone who's in the middle of busy season. They need to be hiring help. I love how you touched on the overwhelm of training because that is a thing. And I think that was what paralyzed me for so long because I was afraid of the time it was going to take to train somebody, but it is literally one task at a time that you're talking through, and then that's one other task that you can like offload. And so knowing now what I know about that process, I would have worked in my slower months, maybe recording myself doing one particular task, then getting it in writing and having just this catalog built of each individual task that I can break down instead of, oh my gosh, how am I going to catch somebody up to like a whole season, you know what I mean, to keep up with me or whatever. So that's a really good point.
Yeah. And it's nice too of once you put things down on paper, and when I'm talking about paper, I'm talking about virtual paper here. I'm talking about like a Word doc or a Google Doc or something that can be in a cloud portal, which is accessible for everybody on your team. That way they can access it from anywhere on their phone, on a tablet, on a computer, wherever, which makes it easier for everybody involved. And then you can actually just write it all out, just literally brain dump it in. The great thing is now we have these amazing AI tools that we can utilize to our advantage to help us as well. But AI is also a people pleaser, which is who we are as wedding professionals. We are certified people pleasers. And so it's not always going to be the best solution, but it'll help you in the beginning. If you're doing a recording, you can get the notes of it so that you can get a high level overview and you can kind of start with that if you want to do a recording, and then it'll be able to kind of take some notes for you. So that way that can then transcend into a pseudo training manual for the interim until you can bring on a coach or until you can maybe have a mentor come and be able to be like, hey, well, what about this? What about this? Because again, our brains are already 5 steps ahead. And so we may not always be the best to audit our own businesses. It's sometimes helpful to have a friend or a coach like myself kind of come in and be able to be like, okay, let's do an audit of this, because I'm going to break it down being like, wait a minute, well, what happens between A and B? There's an A.1 and an A.2 and an A.3. There's multiple things in between here, and you're like, oh yeah.
Right.
And that happens with any business owner when they're creating these.
Yes. Yeah. As you're talking, I'm thinking of what a good example would be. And I kind of want to stick with that bustle example that you brought up.
Yeah.
Because if you're thinking of something, friends, if you're listening, for like what is a tangible SOP that you could create even just this week to know, okay, at least one task you could pass off to somebody else if you needed to. Or when you're thinking of hiring, how do you break your daily routine into a task? And so if you're thinking about creating that bustle, set up your phone, record yourself, and slow down. Because what I'm hearing Becca say is you have to slow down because you're going to race through and skip the steps that you just assume people know. And it wasn't like a huge issue, but like within the first couple weeks of like my first hire, I was like, okay, whoa, I got to slow down because I didn't mention this specific thing. Yes, you know?
Yeah,
and my first thought was to be like, yes, to be frustrated, like, okay, this wasn't what I wanted, but I'm like, oh wait, because I didn't say it. So just really slow down. I think that'd be kind of a fun experiment. Obviously, certain times a year, there's more time to experiment than others, but experiment with recording yourself doing a single alteration, and then can you give yourself that exercise of breaking it down into like step-by-step things. I would say having to go through your whole business model and create SOPs, that sounds super overwhelming. So what does that look like to work with you to create the SOPs for allowing the business to run smooth? Say if you do have like an accident, you need to be away for a few weeks or a month.
Yeah, so with me, I offer two styles of mentorship. There's the one-to-one experience, and then there's the group masterminds that I host. The one-to-one experience is more tailored to each business owner and how they handle things within the wedding industry or within their business. And so we modify things based off of that. And it's a one-to-one mentorship where it's a guided kind of mentorship where I'm holding you accountable, and we're going to have steps and things that we get done, and we'll be walking through either your sales workflow or your operations workflow, depending on where your needs may be, or maybe both, and really creating some structure within the business so that way you can either one, pass things off, or two, outsource, or three, just have a better system for your client experience overall of, oh, I never thought of it that way, because us as single business owners, we only have one brain. And so it's nice to be able to bounce things off of someone. So that's that one-to-one mentorship where we're working on a phase of your business together collectively with goals and ways that we want to achieve that. Then there's the group coaching mastermind, which is more niched out. And I break it up into a sales mastermind and then an operations mastermind. And right now, the niches that I have are for wedding planning, for florists, for venue owners, and for photographers. Now, I'll eventually start adding on more niches depending on kind of where things kind of fall, but those are the big major categories right now in the wedding industry where I see that, I mean, every business needs standard operating procedures, but it's where it's most client-facing level and majority of where the steps are. So that's kind of where I focused on, where there's a sales mastermind in the winter, and then there is an operations mastermind in the summer. So that way for the winter, really cool. It prepares you for engagement season and spring wedding season. And then for the one in the summer, it prepares you for fall wedding season and kind of the next year to come.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
I do have a DIY. If you're wanting to kind of DIY a little bit of your SOPs yourself, there is a shop with some cool templates and kind of some guides. If you're looking to kind of do that, you're like, hey, Becca, I'm not ready for you quite yet. I want to kind of do this on my own for a little bit, which is totally normal for first starting out. But once you've been in business, I'd say 3, 5, 10 years, you're like, okay, I can't keep doing it all by myself.
This is not sustainable. Right. Yeah.
Correct.
I love that. So we can maybe include that in the show notes. That would be great for listeners to be able to tap into. Yeah. I do want to kind of segue into the overarching reason that you do need SOPs is...
Yes.
I know we briefly talked about emergency comes up, you need time off, but I know that you're really passionate about this anti-hustle mindset, and we're pretty passionate about that within the SBS community, and you need clean systems, you need to have dependable SOPs in order to avoid the hustle and like the living the day-to-day and barely catching up feeling. So can you tell us about what led you to feel really passionate about this topic and how you've implemented it in your own business?
Yeah, for me, I think a lot of that kind of ending hustle culture mindset really started when I got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in the summer of 2019. So this was right before COVID hit, even before I actually started my business. Yeah. And it really changed my whole mindset on I can't keep operating at 500% because my body can't handle it. And if I'm not showing up as my best self for my clients, what am I here for? So that really kind of instilled in me that I can't keep doing what I used to be able to do. Like I used to be able to do back-to-back weddings, and I used to be able to do triple headers, and living in that realm of, oh, it's fine, oh, it's fine, oh, it's fine. And I used to keep blaming things on, oh, it's because I've been on my feet, or oh, it's because of this. And it turns out it was my MS starting to flare up, and I had no idea. And I had had it for years until I had a pretty bad flare up, and that's when I got diagnosed with MS. And so
wow,
it was life-changing.
Okay, so when you say flare up, what was the flare up?
The flare up, I actually got drop foot. So essentially my whole right leg just stopped working. And I was like essentially like dragging my right leg along. Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
So that's, oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then they ended up realizing, okay, this girl needs an MRI, but gotta love our healthcare industry. And that was a battle. And I battled with my insurance company for going on 2 months of not moving your foot. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a different
because they were like, oh,
episode.
She doesn't need an MRI. She needs physical therapy, or this is lumbar radiculopathy, which essentially is like a slip disc. And they're like, oh, she needs this. And so there's like a certain level tier in the healthcare system where if you don't reach that threshold, they won't authorize you. And so like that was a whole thing. And finally, by the 7th doctor who said, no, this girl needs an MRI, finally got pushed through. And again, was super lucky. I had really amazing doctors. I had a really amazing neurologist, and even the neurologist admin team, those ladies were the ones that actually pushed for this, calling my insurance incessantly, doing all the things, because not a lot of people have that advocacy, and I did. And that was amazing because there are other people that I've known in the MS community who have waited years before a diagnosis because they didn't have that advocacy, because they didn't have that support. And I was really lucky that I got diagnosed within a matter of 4 months.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
So it was really life-changing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was after that you decided to get into the wedding industry and like start your own business. So what did that
I've been
look
in
like?
the wedding industry for a long time. And so when I got MS, I was actually at the peak of my career. I was the director of event operations at a very high-end wedding venue in DC. I built all their SOPs from scratch, so much so that they now use it for future properties that they open up, which is like super awesome.
Oh my gosh.
I was at the height of my career. They were talking about bringing me on to potentially open up new properties for them across the whole United States. I was literally at the height of the height, and then I got knocked down by my MS and really changed my trajectory. And then COVID hit, and I got let go, like a lot of other wedding and event professionals, and really just made me reconsider what I wanted to do. How can I still stay in the industry that I love so much, but still be disabled? How is that going to look? And I had multiple conversations with my partner about it, and he was really supportive, and I would not be here without his support and the amazing community that supported me through this, being like, Becca, yeah, you should do it. And that's when I decided to open up my business to help other wedding and event professionals and creatives build SOPs, because throughout my career, I've always been known as the SOP queen. Because I need to know where my lines are. I'm the type of gal that, like, I need to see the full picture. I need to know, okay, where are my lines? Where's my black and white? And then where's my gray? Because I like to say that SOPs are black and white, but hospitality lives in the gray. And so you really don't know where to go if you don't have those guardrails. You don't have those lines. And so every business that I was with, that was one of my goals, was to plug in training manuals, standard operating procedures, making sure everyone was on the same page, because you can't operate a $10 million wedding and event business without having the structure in there. And that was the way that we were able to almost create this custom experience for every single client that came through the door, even though we were operating at 125, 135 weddings a year, plus corporate events, plus all-day meetings. Nobody felt like they weren't taken care of.
They were a number.
And that was our goal. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because I like what you said, the difference between the black and the white and the gray, because if you have very clear and concise rules in the black and white side, it gives you more room to play in the gray.
Yeah. And also, your team members know what they can do and what they can't do. Okay? They know that they can't promise this outrageous alteration if you're not following by the ABC guidelines. You know what I mean? Like, they know that they can't do that. And so having that understanding and having that baseline then helps reduce the day-to-day insanity. You kind of have some structure. You kind of have a little bit of a way of operating and doing, and it feels almost rhythmic. And then you bring in platforms and tools to help you so that you're not forgetting to schedule that final fitting. There's triggers and reminders for you, so that way you can still maintain this level of hospitality without having a robot speak for you. You can optimize your business to an extent to where there's a trigger reminder to send that email. And that email is an email template, but there's 5% customization in there. That's what I like to say. All of your templates that you have should never feel robotic. It should feel like, here's an outline and let me add in what is particular to this client. So that way that client feels like they're taken care of and they're like, oh my gosh, how did they remember X, Y, and Z? And it makes them feel special. And that's what hospitality is. So you can still maintain the structure and these SOPs and these guidelines without burning yourself the F out. And the way that you do that is with platforms and tools to remind you, so that way you can build these out in these platforms and tools, and then also be able to outsource things to virtual assistants, to bringing on team members. That's where it kind of gets you to where you're not burning the midnight oil all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This was a few months ago. We had a call in our membership about automated emails, and it didn't get heated, but almost, because there were a couple members that were like, oh no, every email, every encounter with a client is 100% genuine, and I start from scratch. And it's like, okay, but that's hours every week. And so then there was this further conversation of, okay, what does an automated email look like? It doesn't need to sound AI. It doesn't need to sound even the exact same for every client. I know for all of my automations, I wrote them totally sounding like me, and it would be the same thing that I would send to every client anyway. I'm going to capitalize the same words. I'm going to use the same emojis. Like I'm
going to use exclamation points.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, for me, I'm a cursor. Everyone knows. I throw F-bombs out all the time. So for me, cursing in emails is normal, or exclamation points, or like those types of things, because that's me and my business. So if it feels like you, do it.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that you're cheating your clients out of like a genuine connection. I think that you're going to be able to serve them even better because they're not waiting a week for your response. And then 100%. Once they're in the studio and I'm sending their invoice reminders, I add a line about their specific dress, or like, this was so fun at your fitting today, and don't forget to pay your bill, or whatever, so that there's just something personal. But especially when it comes to like all of the kind of like the looky-loos, when they're coming through and inquiring, I'm not going to be responding to each of those, because that's going to be how many hours a week with that. So those are going to be automated responses, but they have been pre-written with my personality fully embedded up in there. So you don't have to feel guilty about automating things or feeling like you're not being genuine or you're not being you, because what Becca's telling us is it's opening up the door for us to be more hospitable and just have a larger capacity once we are working with the clients, because we're not exhausted from sending these custom quotes or going back and forth with emails for an hour before we actually meet the client in person. So what a great reminder. Thank you.
Yeah. And it's one of my things that I like to say is automate doesn't equal auto send, is what I like to say. So we're optimizing these email templates. We're optimizing certain things so that way it speeds up our day to day. And so rather than that email taking you 30 minutes to write from scratch every time, it's taking you 3 minutes to customize. So then that 27 minutes is then spent however you want, whether that's on marketing, whether that's on, maybe you're a designer and a shop owner. And so maybe you're like, okay, I can spend a little bit of time finishing up this one design, or however it may be. That's 27 minutes. Can you imagine if you do 27 minutes you're gaining from each email that you're sending? That's huge. That's so much time back. You could go to a networking event. You could go do so many other things. You could go spend time with your family, your loved ones. You could take a nap. I take a nap almost every day because that's just the way that my body is. But also a lot of things that people don't realize too is one of the things that I talk about most in the hustle culture and ending the hustle culture is boundaries. And boundaries are interwoven into SOPs and interwoven into optimizing your business. It just is. And it's the way that you operate, and it's your line. Whether you have health boundaries, whether you have personal boundaries, you also have business boundaries. The biggest thing where boundaries become an issue is when there isn't clear expectations set out. So, for example, I like to use this example a lot because a lot of wedding pros, again, their minds just kind of explode. They're like, oh, I never thought of it that way. Is if you're trying to get the sale and you're texting with your client at 9 p.m. at night saying, oh yeah, I'll send that invoice. Oh yeah, I'll do that. But then all of a sudden on the ops process, so you've onboarded your client, then you say, oh, I only work 9 to 5 and I don't text. It's like, well, wait a minute. You can't do a bait and switch here. You can't do one thing in the sales process and then not do in the ops process. So I always say be really mindful of when you are creating those boundaries for your business is you got to do it on both sides.
Yes. Okay, that's so good. And don't get me started on the phone and like texting clients. It's like, oh, yes. And
it's the whole thing. And I do not text.
Yes. I don't have my number on anything public because I don't want people texting nothing. And I don't even have my email on things. It's always go to the website, go to my inquiry form, go to the inquiry form. You know what I'm saying? Because like I don't want to keep track of random emails too. And I know through my inquiry form, I have a great workflow. I used Dubsado, which I love. And so I know exactly what they're going to get. I know that I'm going to be able to keep track of what comes in. And even if I get like a DM from a client, oh my gosh, thank you so much for reaching out. So excited for you. Fill out an inquiry. You know what I mean? Drive that traffic to one stop.
Exactly. Yeah. I always like to say texting is for fun, email is for work.
Yeah.
So that way my client knows, like, hey, yeah, cool, send me a text. Because I still do wedding planning. I just take a limited number of clients each year because of, one, my MS, and two, also I'm getting older. My body don't work the way they used to. But
that is a wild job.
It is a real thing. But I still love it. I still love all of my couples, all of my clients. They're amazing. And so I can't let it go quite yet. I say, as soon as I get to a wheelchair, that's probably when I'll call it quits. Because that does not work, unfortunately, in the DMV area where it's majority historical. So
yeah, exactly. All these like cobblestone, this and that. Yes.
Oh, yeah. And I can get into a whole thing about accessibility and inclusivity. We can chat about that maybe next time. But that's a whole thing. I'm extremely passionate about that as well. But yeah, I tell my clients every time I onboard them, I say, literally on my welcome letter, it states, texts are for fun, email is for work. You can text me a picture of your fit and I'll be like, oop, that's cute. But any logistics that come through, I'm not responding via text. I'm not. Yeah, if you're running a few minutes late to the meeting, that's fine. But like, if you're asking me, hey, what about this vendor and blah, 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 I'm not going to respond to it. And normally what happens is they'll send it to me and then they'll be like, oh yeah, that's right. And it registers. And what happens is on the next business day that I have, then I'll say, hey, I got your text. I saw this, and I'll put it in an email. Because also I need my receipts. There's so many moving parts that I need my receipts, which is emails, which is through the systems that I've pre-approved. Texting isn't one that I've pre-approved because I'm going to be honest. I'm human. I'll look at my phone and be like, oh yeah, let me respond to that. And then I read the text and it's out of sight, out of mind. But in email, I have a system. I have a process.
Right. It's so funny. I had a bride a couple weeks ago. We have a friend in common. So she texted me because she got my number from a friend in common. And I was like, ooh. And she's very kind. I don't have any beef with her. But the next morning, I sent her an email because she's like, I just want to make sure that you saw this. I didn't want it to get lost in your inbox, so I thought I would text you instead. So the next morning, I said, hey, girl, I got your text. I wanted to email you back because the quickest way to get lost in my life is by texting me, which is true. Like, you can ask any of my friends, and I am the classic, like, cool, I'll respond. And then it's like, bloop, I'm totally distracted or the conversation's over before it started, and it's not good.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like kind of this running joke of when friends get in my car, when your phone is hooked up, whatever, to your car system. And then it shows,
oh, yeah,
like,
and you
your
can
home
see
screen.
everything that comes through.
Yes!
Mm-hmm.
And then you can see, like, how many unread messages and unread emails. It's like, that's the story of my life. But it's because if I read them, then they're not bold anymore. And then I forget about them. So it's like, if I don't read them, then I'll circle back, you know?
Then it's like an unread
there's a system. Okay,
you know
people,
what I mean?
don't
like
judge me. Yes.
Hey, this is a judgment-free zone here. I am right there with you. Also, there are so many times where I have drafted a response and then all of a sudden, like, I get pulled by my dogs or my partner or, oh crap, I gotta go take out the food for dinner or whatever it may be. And I go back 2 weeks later and I'm like, oh, I never responded. They probably think that I am the worst human in the world.
Yes, and it's just floating in my outbox, I promise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then I'll respond and they're like, oh no, Becca, we know that you're not this way. And also my bestie, she knows. She's like, yeah, you are the worst at messaging. She goes, you can get on a call with somebody and spend hours and hours. You literally texting is like one-line sentences. Because it's like my brain, it's like boom, boom.
Yeah. I know. It's like, I'm a good person.
It's different.
I promise. It's just, yeah, sometimes it's like I can't be on my phone or like I can't engage. I hope when you're listening, you're hearing the common thread here from where we started the conversation to now about having boundaries. You can't have boundaries if everything in your business is all willy-nilly and unpredictable and like, I don't even know what's happening tomorrow or next week. So it starts with, I think, taking a beat and thinking through what you want this to feel like, to look like, what your mornings want to look like. Think it through and then get it on paper. And as Becca said, it can be digital paper. It can even be just like notes on your phone or just like record a voice memo to yourself so that you're like getting it out of your brain and it's living somewhere else. And maybe you're in the middle of busy season and whether you're like a seamstress or a wedding planner or a photographer and you're like, I can't think about even adding organization to my life because right now I am on the struggle bus and I get it. And I feel like we've all had those seasons. You have to survive those seasons to like know what you don't want. You know what I mean? So if you're in the middle of that, it's good.
Yeah, that's why I tell everybody, anybody that's been in business under 3 years, I give them a nice, hey, I love you, but don't reach out to me quite yet because your business is going to evolve and change so much in that 0 to 3 year mark. I said, come back to me when you're ready to know what you want and what you don't want, you know, because then that's when you can create the structure.
Yes, exactly. So when you're in the thick of it right now in survival mode, just be dropping voice memos for yourself or take notes of what in a perfect world you want this week in 2027 to feel like for you or like next busy season. How do you want to be thriving in busy season instead of like, oh my gosh, I'm like barely surviving. I want my pool days. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm working here so that Monday and Tuesday I can be at the pool. Like that's the
right. I mean, I tell people too, they're always floored too when I tell them my business hours. They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, my business hours are 11 to 6 from Tuesday through Friday.
Can I also say to you, I appreciate that you're not a morning person because when you said 11, I heard that.
Yeah.
I
refuse.
Mornings, I have not, no.
Mm-mm. Me and mornings do not get along. They've never got along.
I thought I would grow into it, but I'm not a morning person still, and it's like I'm almost 40, so it's not happening. I was just talking to my husband about this because I journal every morning and every night, and I don't know, earlier in the week, what's today? Thursday?
Also, I love that for you. I've tried, and I can't do it, so I'm just saying
have you ever read
that for you.
The Artist's Way?
No.
By Julia Cameron. Okay, it's awesome. I'm going to do a little like subgroup within SBS to go through that book because it's so good.
Like a workshop.
Julia Cameron, but Julia Cameron talks about morning pages and how you just like write 3 pages every morning like a stream of consciousness, and then at night I like to just record stuff and journal through. But I was journaling about like how stressed I felt, and I just felt stressed, and then I was like, okay, I'm at my shop for 5 hours a day. every other week. So if I wanted to not feel stressed, I could always put in an 8-hour day if I wanted to, you know what I mean? So it was kind of this reality check where it was like, okay.
You could, or you could just filter things out so that in that 5-hour period of time, you can time block yourself, or just say no meetings, no phone calls, no nothing, that you're solely at the shop. This is what you do. Time blocking for me is a godsend because I literally
How do you do
set timers.
Do you set timers?
I set timers.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I do. So that way I could be like, all right, let me just get this done. And even if I don't get it done, I have to remind myself it isn't the end of the world. I'm not doing brain surgery here. If I was my ortho surgeon fixing my radial heads, yeah, I'd be a little bit more mindful at that point.
There might be some reason for concern.
There may be a little bit of reason for concern. But I'm not doing that. I'm coaching wedding professionals, or I'm helping my couples have an amazing day that they want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there was always a solution to whatever problem that we may have, and nothing is an absolute fire. It really
is. And I think at this point too, because I'm at the point where it's like I can just spend half a day here and I'm fine. The brides that are picking up this week are getting married in 2 weeks, so we're like fine on schedule. If I have that cushion, right? So it's like if there are days where like, okay, I got to put in a couple extra hours, it's still not ruining my summer. But it took a long time to get to that point where it's like, I know that I want to prioritize pool days. You know what I'm saying? So it took work on the back end, maybe during slow months when I was like, okay, hiring out and figuring out what I want who to do.
Putting in some SOPs.
Exactly. So that summers are like fun again. So I used to be a teacher in my first life, and I think that's why I'm really passionate about like enjoying summer. Like I want to be at the garden, I want to be in the backyard, I want to be reading my books, because I still feel like hot teacher summer is deeply rooted within me. So I can't give up summers just because I'm a wedding pro. Sometimes you feel like you have to give it up if you're going to have a successful business. You won't see the sun May through September.
And everyone says like, oh my gosh, Becca, have you found balance? Absolutely not. There's no such thing as a perfect balance or the work-life balance. There's a balancing out the scales. It's like any relationship, and I heard this podcast and it has changed my whole mindset on relationships as well as my work life and also my health boundaries that I put into play. Is you're never going to be able to give always 100%. There's some days where you give 80 and the other partner gives 20. And then there's some days where you're at 20 and they've got to give 80. And then there's also days where they're at 20 and you're at 20. And so you say, okay, what can we do here? And people are like, okay, well, Becca, what are you talking about not burning the midnight oil? But then I heard you saying that you sometimes work at 2 a.m. I said, yeah, that's because my brain is awake at 2 a.m. But my clients don't know that my brain is awake at 2 a.m. because I'm using scheduling send. Or I'm having it to be where it's during my office hours. Yeah, I'm still human. Right. So like some days my body's not going to work with me. And even though I planned this extravagant day of either meetings or getting all these things done, it's not going to happen. So then what happens is I take some rest and I do it either whenever I feel that I can get it done, or it gets done the next day when it's like, okay, my body's back again. Yeah. So like things will ebb and flow, and there's no such thing as a perfect balance. You're going to give 80 some days. Yeah. Then the next day you can only give 20. Because remember, you gave 80 the other day. Or maybe you gave 200% one day. Guess what? The next 2 days after that, you're going to be dead to the world because you overextended yourself. So just give yourself some grace here. We're human. We're not robots. And also, there's no way in this world that we can operate. And us as women, we do this a lot too to ourselves is, well, we got to do it all. We got to take care of the kids, or we got to take care of the dogs, plus make dinner, plus do this. And it's like, that can only work for so long.
Yeah. I do want to, touch on this because I think some listeners are like, well, wait a minute, we have a deadline because we have dresses that have to get out the door. And I get that. And so I think a big gift that we can give ourselves is just starting earlier. I think for a lot of us who, when we want to have dresses ready the week of the wedding, that is a lot of pressure to put on yourself because that week, nothing can happen that week. The dress has to be done. So what if you give yourself like 2 or 3 weeks before the wedding.
Yeah.
That the dress can be done. That just gives you more of a buffer.
Yeah. I have my couples on their checklist with their tire shops. I tell them to have their fits finalized by 4 weeks if they can. They're scheduling ahead of time, even if it's just like their second or final fitting is at the 4 week or even 2 week mark, that's fine. But the week of the wedding, I gotta tell you, that is a nightmare for couples to do anything else.
Yeah, and they're already stressed week of, like, they're up to here as opposed to, like, just having that buffer at 2 weeks. We do, like, steam pickups week of because you don't have to put the dress on and you can send somebody else to pick up your steam garments, whatever. You know what I mean?
I think that's also a life-changing thing is that these couples, I make them realize, I'm like, you don't have to be the person doing this.
Yeah.
You've already done all the work in advance so that you don't have to be doing this.
Right.
You know,
right.
like you can go send your partner or your loved one or like whoever can pick it up.
Your best man.
It's covered.
Yes.
You know, like
yes.
They're here to help. And also the week of the wedding, that's when you're having people come in, fly in. You want to spend time with them. You're excited and you should be. You shouldn't have to be worrying about your final dress fitting that week. So any of the shops out there, if you can do it more in advance, do it. It only saves you. Right. And your clients. And it creates that higher end experience, to be honest.
I feel like when you're talking about days when you feel like, ooh, I can do it all. Certain times of the month, like I am done. I don't want to leave my house. I come to work and I'm like, I literally don't want to do anything. And then I leave because like I'm not well. And giving yourself the grace of like some days you're going to be great. Some days, I don't know. It's just so hard to put things into motion. But if there's one takeaway I'd want listeners to take from this episode is think through the steps. Think through the steps that brought you to maybe the stressful feeling that you have right now. We were recently talking in our membership about how final fittings can feel so stressful the week of the wedding and how to avoid that. So like, what are you experiencing and how can you avoid what steps can you take to avoid that? And
can you move that
I think even
back?
just giving yourself, the grace that like that can be changed. That doesn't have to be permanent because you're the business owner. So you can change how these things work. That can start with your SOP. That can start with working with a coach like Becca who can help you number each step so you can clarify things for yourself, for your team, or even dream of like the idea of having team members to help you. Like you don't need to be stuck in this feeling forever. That's the point of the whole episode. And you have two of us to reach out to if you want to get out of your little rut.
100%. And I also want to like leave with some food for thought is just because society or the way that we've been doing this for years says this timeline doesn't mean it has to be your timeline. You create your own timeline. It's your business.
That's right. Yeah. I think when I first started, I was really strict about starting alterations at 12 weeks. And now I'm like, I want to start at 16 weeks. I want an extra month so that I'm just like,
so anything can happen.
Right. It
gives
want an
you
extra
grace,
month.
and it gives your client grace. It gives everyone grace.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So Becca, thank you so much. I'm like so excited for this episode to get out. Where can listeners find you and stalk you on Instagram and all those things? Share us.
Yes. You can find me on Wed2You. That's WED, the number 2, YOU. I'm on Instagram and Facebook and then also LinkedIn. So feel free to like slide on in my DMs. I'm literally always down to kiki. I'm always down to chat. And you can also find me on my website at www.wed2you.co. So you can check out some things there too.
Thank you so much. And so if you're listening and you're inspired by this conversation, you know you can reach out to either one of us and we'd love to help you because if you're in a rut, it doesn't need to be forever. It just takes the first step and you don't need to be living there forever. So thank you, Becca, for your wisdom and your experience. And I'm so glad your elbows are working again.
They're working again. Yay.